Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hello and welcome back to Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And let me just check here. Yep, I'm still Dr. Issues.
This is our season 4 premiere. It's good to be back. We had a little bit of a break for the holidays. We took about a month off. Time to recharge, refresh our batteries, although I'm not really sure that happened in Doc's case.
Oh, boy. Yeah. So I ended up working 39 out of 40 days, including 30 straight. Not exactly the greatest time. Oh, and just before we're recording right now, I had a review from a federal board called the Joint Commission. Anybody that's done hospital work knows exactly who that is. The good news is it went well. The bad news is I'm exhausted.
When's your next day off?
So I am working next weekend. I'm working this weekend. And sometime in February.
Okay. Well, God help you, man. That's the beauty of having a government 9-to-5 job. So we hope that you all had a wonderful and joyous holiday season and a very happy new year. And we are certainly glad to have you all back with us for this, our 67th episode, which is crazy. In fact, I think it was yesterday, and we're recording this on a Saturday. I think it was maybe Friday. I posted from 2 years ago, when I had shared on my Facebook. And if you go to our Instagram page, you can see the flashback. I posted the throwback of when I was saying, so if you had to ask questions to a board-certified psychiatrist about these comic book characters, what would you ask them? And so that just goes to show you that we're quickly approaching the 2-year anniversary of Capes on the Couch. Side note, by the way, when I posted that flashback, the little throwback photo, whatever.
Someone responded.
2 people responded. With legitimate questions about the Joker. It was Eddie Brock, the Joker, and Tony Stark, because those were our 3 of our first 4 episodes.
Yes.
And so I had our buddy Tim.
Yeah.
Asked me a couple of questions about Tony Stark. So, and then my friend Jackie also asked some questions about just in general. So I was like, I kind of wanted to comment and say, you're about 2 years too late, but maybe we'll do them in a mailbag episode. We'll keep them in.
There you go.
We'll keep them in the pocket for a mailbag episode. So a couple of housekeeping items. As always, you can find us on all the various social media platforms at Capes on the Couch, and I want to give a shout out to our Discord channel and our YouTube channels, because if you are a Discord fan or you happen to subscribe to our YouTube channels, you can watch and or listen to us record these episodes live. So that's just a little bonus for our fans. We also want to announce a minor change to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Capes on the Couch, where you can subscribe at the $1, $3, and $5 levels. Previously, the bloopers, which were, I want to say, I guess, bi-monthly at this point, because we don't always have enough material sometimes for a monthly release, but so it's usually about every other month. Those are going to be dropped down to the $1 level. And the reason being is that Doc and I are now going to be doing monthly trade paperback reviews. So this is going to be exclusive to the $3 and up level of our Patreon. And it's going to be a combination psychological analysis of the trade paperback, and also just a general review of the writing, the artwork, the characterization, etc. So we can sort of nerd out on the comic book level, which is something that we don't really get an opportunity to do on this show. Certainly I don't get to do it nearly as much as I would like.
Same.
So that's that. So you can go, as I said, to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Capes on the Couch, and check that out. And if you subscribe at the $3 and up level, you will get to hear monthly trade paperback reviews. And our February review is Joker Endgame. So we're jumping right into it. So I know that title definitely appealed to Doc. So we have our next 2 months worth of episodes lined up. which is ridiculous. And a major thank you to our patrons who were gracious enough to provide us with their next 2 months worth of selections. So we've got a lot of good stuff lining up. But in addition to all of that, we will be returning. We will have the sequel to our Mental Health Avengers.
And this time I'll actually be there.
Yes.
By the way, I'm Blade.
Okay.
Just wanted to put that out there.
All right. Well, we'll tell the guys over at Pop Psych 101 to get you some custom artwork where you get to look like Blade, although you have to show your face. I don't know how comfortable you are with that.
I'll do it. I mean, think about it. We're live right now. It's all good.
This is true. This is very true. Forgot about that. So last 2 things. One, our weekly podcast shout out. Bang Average Movie Podcast is the pick of the week. Nathan and Tyler talk about movies. Nathan has a film studies degree. Tyler doesn't. It comes out in the wash. So they cover good movies, bad movies. They talk about it all. There's a lot of humor involved. So don't expect any serious in-depth analysis, despite the fact that Nathan has a film studies degree. It's not one of those pretentious hoity-toity, well, he's going to be discussing the cinematography and I thought that the lighting choices could have been, no, it's not that kind of a podcast. It's a lot more fun than that. So you can check them out basically wherever you get podcasts. Their website is bamoviepodcast.podbean.com. So check them out. And the last thing is, as we've said many times on the show, we love when you rate and review us. So we got a review from CitrusSunshine on Apple. I'm not that big of a comics fan, but this podcast is really good. I like that they have in-universe and out-of-universe treatment. Often there are tips and thoughts that are applicable to my life.
That is amazing. That makes me feel so good about what we do.
So thank you, CitrusSunshine. And if you send us a screen cap of that, or if you just send us an email to capesonthecouch@gmail.com with your address, we will send you a sticker because we are very appreciative of all of the ratings and reviews that our fans leave for us. So I think we've wasted enough time, but it's the first episode back.
Yeah.
You have to
open the season. Everybody needs to know where we stand.
Yeah, and shake off the rust a little bit, get a little, All right, we ready to roll?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's do this. So Miles Morales, picked by a friend of the show, Brian. Miles Morales, who many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with if you saw the incredible Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Just an absolutely incredible film.
Yep.
Stands alone, not just as an animated film, as a comic book movie. It's just a damn good movie, period.
Amen to that.
And I'm very hyped for the sequel.
Yep.
Miguel O'Hara for the win. So Miles Morales is created by Brian Michael Bendis and Sara Pichelli, who I adore just as a person and an artist, in Ultimate Fallout #4, August 2011. So again, a very, very new hero. Not quite as new as some of the other ones we've recently done. Not as new as, say, Robbie Reyes or Nadia Van Dyne, but still, it's less than a decade old. So Miles was created to replace Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe after Peter's death, and they opted to create a minority character to reflect the diversity of Marvel readers, and his look was influenced by Donald Glover. You could do a lot worse than modeling somebody after Donald Glover.
Amen.
Childish Gambino. So,
which you didn't know for the longest time.
All right, you know what?
You knew I was going to call that out.
I can't even fight that. Yes, I was like, man, Childish Gambino looks a lot like Donald Glover. Yeah. It like about 2 years. I'm not even lying. Anyway, so Miles was born to a black father and a Puerto Rican mother. Similarly to Peter Parker, Miles was bitten by a spider. The spider was infused with the formula based on Peter's blood by Dr. Marcus, who was trying to recreate whatever happened to Peter Parker. And so the spider crawled into the duffel bag of the Prowler, a villain that was later revealed to be Miles' Uncle Aaron. Played, if you saw Spider-Man Homecoming, Miles Davis is played by Donald Glover. So, fun bit of synchronicity and casting there.
Yep.
So when Miles went to his uncle's house, the spider crawled out and bit him. So he gets basically the same powers as Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, I should say. But in addition, he also gets the ability to turn invisible and this venom blast that basically paralyzes an opponent. So in addition to the whole sticking to walls and the spider sense and all that. So he's not really big on using his powers until he sees Spider-Man Peter Parker die thanks to Green Goblin. So he takes up the mantle, although he's initially shunned by the public because he's wearing basically a copy of Peter's suit, and he's yelled at that it's in bad taste, which I thought was just very funny. Everybody's like, yo, that's wrong, man. Like he just died. You better take that suit off. That's not cool.
Yeah. Not that, I have everything that he has and a little more, but okay, fine, whatever.
So he ends up recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D., and then his uncle discovers that he's Spider-Man, and they battle, and Aaron's weapons malfunction and explode, killing him. So the Secret dies with Uncle Aaron. Then the ultimate version of the Venom symbiote takes over Dr. Marcus, and he attacks Miles' father, who he believes to be Spider-Man. In the ensuing battle, Dr. Marcus is killed along with Miles' mother, and this makes Miles just say, you know what, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. So he returns as Spider-Man about a year later, and then his father learns the truth and disowns him. We later find out that his father, Jefferson, comes back and says, you know what? Aaron and I used to be undercover agents working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and we got caught up in the criminal element working for the Kingpin a little bit. And when I saw you doing a lot of that, it just kind of brought me back to some unresolved issues that I had with my brother, and I didn't want to face it, that you were going through something very similar. So I just, sort of kicked you out and, disowned you for a bit, but I'm sorry about that. And I love you. So it was a very heartwarming moment.
Like father, like son.
So
I want to sing that so badly in the Aida tenor, but whatever. Okay.
So he reveals his identity to his girlfriend, Katie Bishop, the ultimate version of Kate Bishop, who in turn reveals that she and her parents are actually agents of Hydra. Dun, 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 dun. So in the Secret Wars story, the Ultimate and 616 universes are merged, and Miles is brought into the mainstream universe because he was nice to Molecule Man during the whole situation and the whole storyline. Molecule Man brings his mother back. So now he is also Spider-Man because obviously in the 616 universe, we still have Peter Parker.
Right.
And so...
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Molecule Man because we did an episode on him as well.
Yes, we did. And you can read more about what's been going on with the Molecule Man and the search to restore him in the just ended far too soon Future Foundation. It only got 5 issues, written by friend of the show, Jeremy Whitley. So shout out to Jeremy. In any case, so now Miles is patrolling New York City as Spider-Man alongside Peter Parker, who's working on more of a global scale. So then during the Civil War II story, Ulysses, who is an Inhuman with precognitive abilities, foresees Miles killing Captain America. This sets off the entire conflict of the story, although the murder doesn't actually occur. Miles doesn't really end up killing Captain America, but Captain Marvel and Iron Man come to blows. It's a whole thing. So currently he's a member of the Champions, which is a group of young teenage heroes. So you've got him, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and a couple of the other teenage heroes. And there's an upcoming storyline. I think it's going to be coming out in around March. It's called Outlawed. And in universe, they are banning teenage heroes. Because I don't know exactly what it is that's kicking it off, but they said, you know what? Kids are dying trying to be heroic. So we're going to ban anybody from under the age of 18 or 21, whatever it is. No more teenage superheroes. And Miles is going to end up being a big part of that story. And I believe it's written by Al Ewing, who we interviewed as part of our New York Comic Con episode. So there's all these awesome connections.
Yeah. And there'll be more and more as we continue to do this. And that's amazing.
Yes. We are still working on trying to get some more creator interviews coming up. So fingers crossed that we hit some of them, and we'll keep you posted. So that being said, for the background issues, of which Miles has a few. So let's start off with the notion, and we've talked about this with a couple other characters, particularly with Nadia and a couple of other characters, that they are a legacy character and they have this mantle to uphold. And Spider-Man is a big freaking deal. He's a big deal in our universe, and he's like the figurehead of Marvel Comics. But even in universe, Spider-Man is Spider-Man. He is the hero. He is like one of the biggest heroes. And so Peter Parker's death in the Ultimate Universe was a major event. Absolutely earth-shattering. Mm-hmm. And then shortly thereafter, you have this kid show up wearing the same costume with the same powers. And he's really struggling with this initially because he didn't want to use the powers, but then he saw Spider-Man die. He saw Peter die, and he says, I have to do something. With great power comes great responsibility, in a manner of speaking. And especially after the public reacts poorly.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to take this a little bit out, not just with Miles Morales, the character in universe, but also the idea of Miles Morales, the character, out of universe.
Oh, in the real world.
My goodness.
Oh, absolutely. There was major pushback against Marvel trying to social justice warriors and, you're killing the white Spider-Man, you're replacing him with a black Puerto Rican Spider-Man.
Right. And so even
politically correct Spider-Man.
Right. So in that sense, the parallels were amazing there because both in the comics themselves, where Miles is trying to point out to everyone around him, I didn't even ask for this. I wasn't trying to be this. So now that I'm in the situation, I'm trying to make the best of it. It's absolutely a shame that he died. And what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to completely ignore it? That doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, in our own universe, we want to make new stories. Sometimes people have ideas that are a little different than the ones before them, and they want to find a unique way to express them. What are we supposed to do? Just completely shut them off? So I think it's amazing how life imitates art and vice versa. So I'll just start with that. But to get to Miles himself, the way he's originally portrayed, he's meant to be a pretty good kid. I don't mean like generic good kid. Very smart, intelligent, has this streak about him that wants to clearly do his own thing, has the type of authority figures in his life that allow him to be confident in that no matter what he does, someone's going to be there to back him up. That's great. So now he gets these powers that don't fit into any of his plans. That can throw people off in certain directions, some more than others, depending on how they process unexpected events. Miles, for the most part, at least the way I read him, doesn't do that bad a job. He says, I don't need to do something right away. Just because a huge shock happens, that doesn't mean everything has to change all at once. So the fact that he didn't initially go out and flash his powers is totally fine in my opinion, because it's a good idea to process that sort of thing for a little while. No different than, and I know I've used this analogy before, if you or I won the lottery, you don't have to make a decision on how to spend those millions of dollars or whatever all within the next 30 seconds. And yet, that seems to be human nature, where we just want to do. We just want to go with it. And so you have someone that now is going to immediately be tied with someone that is incredibly well known, even though he had no other real bond. So that's kind of artificially been thrust upon him. Yes, it's the same types of powers, so there's going to be this natural comparison, but he doesn't have to do that. He could have, in theory, just as easily created some other name, outfit, person, unrelated whatsoever. But what I suspect would have happened is people would have said, wow, that looks a lot like what Spider-Man does. Or, hey, that seems to be the way Spider-Man moves. Why? Because those are the very similar powers. So I think this would have happened anyway. And he would have been in the exact same spot. In other words, I think this would have been a situation where haters were going to hate regardless. He would have been compared to someone that he is similar to in that outward view, regardless of so many different things that are internally set. So what do you do?
Take the ball and just run with it.
Right. What else are you going to do when not the entire world? I know I don't mean to exaggerate. A subset that is very fixed in their view, that are automatically going to either put you on a pedestal or want to bury you. Either way, like it's just automatic from that point forward. You might as well do you. Miles, I don't know, especially if he's been in a situation to see one of his heroes die, because Spider-Man was a hero to so many people. It's not as if it was specific to Miles. It hit so much of the population that everyone else was trying to find a way to mourn in their own way. So the thing that he did that caused the pain was trying to move people forward. That may not have been his goal. His goal may have been more to just be an homage, but it came across more like a situation where you're saying, I'm better. And in the comic itself, at no point does Miles come across that way, but it's fascinating to see everybody else interact with him, especially Spider-Woman with S.H.I.E.L.D. I think she even arrests him for.
Oh yeah, she gets pissed.
Yeah. I mean, just that whole dynamic of
because in the Ultimate Universe, Jessica Drew was a female clone of Peter Parker, so they had a very strange relationship in the Ultimate Universe. So Jessica kind of took it as a slap in the face to everything that Peter was and who he.
Right.
What he wasn't.
Right. And I like that you use that term, because when you say a slap in the face, like, well, who's doing the slapping? Naturally, we're going to say, well, she thinks Miles is doing the slapping, but how could he be doing the slapping? They're all in this together. So that really is a situation that many people do come across. And when that happens, all you can do at that point is make whatever the best decision is in the moment and deal with the consequences. And there are going to be some massive repercussions. And there are going to be some negatives that are going to happen that I'm not sure they can be avoided, but you're going to have to put on your Viktor Frankl helmet if you know what I'm talking about with that. But I'll get into that with treatment.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, just on a side note, in one of the animated Spider-Man series, of which there are myriad, where Miles is introduced, originally he's, Miles Morales and he's Spider-Man. And then he comes back and he's still Miles Morales, but now he's known as Kid Arachnid. Which is a name I do not care for at all. I understand it rhymes, but Kid Arachnid, no. So in many ways, when Miles was created, he was meant to be a fresh new version of Peter. And so one of the things that we see all the time in the various live action iterations of Peter Parker is they bring him back to high school. And they bring him back to teenage years, even though, realistically speaking, and this is just like me, just minor comic vent, in the original stories, Peter was only a teenager for a very brief time. Yeah, and Peter went off to college, and then he was an adult. But everybody romanticizes those first, 50 or so stories of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and they romanticize that, and they just keep bringing Peter back to high school, back to high school, back to high school. Let Peter Parker grow up. But I digress. So much like Peter initially, he's a teen hero. Miles is a teenager. I think he's like 15 or so when it starts, maybe 16. Teenage heroes and teenagers in general carry with them their own set of problems. Now, you and I were 15 years old years ago, but
hey,
it's not something that we can forget.
Right.
And
that's very true, Tracy. Oh,
listen here, Deathbert.
Touche.
Let's not go there.
Right.
Because nobody else listening is going to get those references. But my point is that being a teenage hero, being a teenager in general, it's a very difficult time. It is. You don't know where your head is at. Your body's doing all these different things. Everything is betraying you. It's a horrible, horrible time. Now, on top of that, you have all these superpowers that you didn't ask for. And they happen to be the exact same set of superpowers as like the most famous superhero who just very publicly died. That's how do you even begin to cope with that? Never mind. So the legacy stuff, I know we were just talking about that a little bit, but you take all of that and now you throw it on a teenager who's barely, and you're saying he's a good kid, which he is. Miles pre-spider bite and even post-spider bite is a kid who's got it together, but there's still a lot on a 15-year-old. If you or I were 15 and all of a sudden we ended up with all this stuff, forget it.
And I know you can't see it. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see it, but eyes kind of bugged out there. Yeah. So I'm going to bring up something in society that we tend to forget. You pointed out, what would you imagine it would be like as a teenager with those powers? I'm going to tweak that language a little bit. what was it like when you had teenagers with that power? I'm not talking superheroes. We used to have monarchs. We used to have some of the most important people making day-to-day decisions, determining the fates of hundreds and thousands of people that were around that age. That's how this world used to function on a regular basis. If you look back historically, that may say a lot as to some of the things that took so long for us to grow from, because there are certain things on teenagers' minds that they do not shake very easily. Some of them...
Or they may shake it a lot. I'm sorry. It wrote itself.
Well, the funny thing is, I really did mean that. So the fact that you just took it in the joke format, hey, we're in the entertainment business. That's great. But that's the truth. You go from being pretty much an asexual person to a sexual person. And that, for many people, is liberating. For others, it's don't get yourself thrown in jail. And so you have that with, let's go ahead with the biology here, with an increase in strength, endurance, musculature in general, appearance, potential motivations. Wow, how on earth is Miles not just like going to town? But that's kind of the point. How does he keep that in check? That's a real question. I'm not even saying that to be funny.
I know, and yet there are so many jokes running through my head.
And I hope the same jokes are running through the audience's head, because that's human nature. That's the way we think. That's the way you thought if you were a teenager. And for the parents who are using discretion and having some of their teenagers listen to this, same thing. But flip it around to the teenager's mind. In other words, when you're a teenager, you think that the world has become so advanced that your parents don't know what's going on, and therefore you can hide certain things in your life. And therefore, you don't have to worry about them because you're already ahead of the game and they're clueless. That's really the way teenagers think.
Oh, I know.
So now that we're on the opposite end, although we do not have teenagers ourselves, the point is, we know every single thing that at some point is going to potentially come up.
Well,
and
you have an 8-year-old, so you're a lot closer to it than I am.
And we just had a doctor's visit, and the doctor is starting to ask questions about development as a whole. And I almost threw up in my mouth. So not to go into that too much, but the point is to get back to Miles as a teenager. So he has potentially the idea that he can keep all of this hidden, everything, because that's what teenagers do. They feel like we know how the world now runs, and our parents, it's past their time. They don't know anything. So we can get away with, as long as we're smart, we can get away with just about anything. Meanwhile, for the most part, parents have to have this balance of letting the child develop some autonomy while still giving enough information to say, we know exactly what's going on, and we're not going to let you get hurt. We're not going to let you get in trouble. And if you do get in trouble, you're going to pay.
Yeah.
So
now if Miles is taking 30-minute showers all of a sudden, and his parents are like, boy, you seem really dirty there running up the water bill. What you doing in the bathroom that long, Miles?
Well, hey, not just that. You add the other part of, well, I'm also trying to save the world, but I can't say that because that's a big issue. And I still want to have fun, but now I have this extra responsibility, and I know that was Peter, maybe not Peter Parker himself, but I know Spider-Man always put everybody else first, and so I know that's what I have to do, but doggone it, I have things I want to do for myself too. Why do I have to deal with that right now? So it's just turning, to go reference Spinal Tap, it's turning everything up to 11.
Well, I was going to say, just to reference, going back to the issue, the episode we did shortly before we went on break about psychiatry and comics, that issue where Ultimate Aunt May is in therapy. One of the things that she's describing to the therapist is she says, I know that Peter is sneaking out every night, and I know he's going to Mary Jane's house. That's what she thinks.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, I can't tell him no because he's a good kid. He does, he does his homework and this and that. And so if he wants to go spend time with Mary Jane, I have to let him do that.
Yeah.
So that's that same idea of you have to give them the freedom to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that, and a lot of this is tying into the third thing that I wanted to talk about. And we're sort of like jumping around and touching. Okay. So, but it's the notion of keeping family separated from his heroic life. But what I was going to say was you would almost think that in some respects, and this may be like a hot take or whatever, being a teenage superhero would be easier to keep it hidden because you can just write it off as, oh, they're being a moody teenager. They don't want to talk. They don't want to do this and that. They're being withdrawn. They're keeping late hours, or they're not coming, they're not obeying curfew. That to some extent you may be able to get away with that as a teenager because it could be written off as teenage behavior versus an adult who all of a sudden is keeping strange hours. Now all of a sudden, like, dude, you're 27. What the hell? Or whatever. But if you're 15 and all of a sudden you're out late at night and you become very sullen and withdrawn, or you don't want to talk to your parents about certain things, well, he's a teenager and that's what teenagers do. So
that's, you know what? I'll be honest. I had not thought of that. That's an excellent point.
Just occurred to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an excellent point. Had not considered that.
So that's something to keep in mind. So now the third issue that I was saying is the difficulty of keeping his family separated. We know the struggles that Peter went through with Aunt May and everything else. That Miles has two parents, one of whom his father is a policeman. And again, that was done very well in the Into the Spider-Verse. His mother is a nurse. So he tells his best friend, Ganke, but that's about it, and maybe a couple of the other fellow superheroes eventually learn his identity. And as I alluded to in the background, his mother finds out in the original, in the Ultimate Universe, his mother finds out before she dies. And then when he's brought into the 616 universe, eventually his parents find out and his dad does not react well.
Right.
And then they eventually come to accept it. Yeah. But that's a struggle in and of itself. And again, that's another thing that you tack that on to a teenager who's already trying to keep secrets from their parents because that's what teenagers do.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you're lying. So that's a whole other level on top of it.
Okay. I'm going to take this in a direction you may not have expected me to take it. But in general, your family has a culture, whatever that is. And I am not referencing specific ethnicities here. I'm not saying Black, Hispanic, anything like that. I'm saying your family line, your parents, siblings, cousins, et cetera, you end up having a tribe. And there are certain things that that the tribe does together, certain things that the tribe approves of, certain things that the tribe doesn't approve of. And so on top of the idea that Miles now has something that is unexpected within his family dynamic, and he has to keep that out of his regular dealings with the people that he cares about the most, that creates an intense conflict because, as you said, there is a bit of a buffer of being the quote unquote moody teenager, but parents in general want to know. They want to know the bad and the good because they want the opportunity to, first of all, validate what their experiences are with raising a child. No one wants to think they raised a monster. Okay, that's just human nature. But also, many parents, myself included, have the anxiety of, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing? What do I have to tweak so that things are better for my child? And so from that standpoint, you have a child that now is doing things that I don't even know what they are because the periods of time are getting longer and longer where they're not in my purview. They're hanging out with people that I don't even recognize. And on top of that, let's say they ask directly what's going on. At this point, they've established as parents, they know that it's either a lie or it's not the whole truth. They'll try and twist it as much as possible. This can be, because I don't want it to just focus on the superhero aspect of it, this could be drugs. This could be relationships. This could be orientation. This could be jobs. I'm doing something different in school than you wanted me to do. Whatever. There are so many variations to this theme that it's really common to every family. And also to add on to that layer, you have a young man that naturally is going to want to protect, especially if he feels like he now has a certain level of influence, power, whatever, to once again generalize to the real world, something that he has to do for his family to make sure that their lives are better. It's very natural for children to want their parents to not just think good of them, but for them to feel rewarded for the work that they've done. And so the way Miles is portrayed, I wouldn't be shocked if someone had intervened and said, okay, well, you can't tell anybody, but we're going to give you like this little pin that says, superhero. And you could say you got it from school and it was for doing a great job in class. And he could wear that pin, show it to his family. I think they would say, that is amazing. That's wonderful. You're doing such a great job. And he would love it, but he would start to cry, I think, the way he's portrayed, because he would still say, that's not the whole truth, and I can't tell you. He only ever gets hints of what he can say. And for many people, because Miles does come across as, if this power stuff didn't happen, he'd be pretty cool with them. He'd be pretty straight with them about everything that he would say, and he can't do that. So it's going against his own nature within his family. They are so tight that the fact that he has to bend those rules every single time is just eating at him, creating more and more tension, more anxiety. And what kind of outlet would he have? Because his number one outlet was his family before all of this. So now your number one backers, the number one people that you go to, you can't go to. How's that going to work? Just something that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah. I think that happens frequently, I'll say, in the notion that sometimes your person, and what I mean by that is the person that you go to, and whether that's a spouse, a family member, sometimes a best friend, at some point, realistically speaking, your person is going to be a major source of stress. And who do you go to when the person that you would go to is the cause of the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can say, you can say, realistically speaking, you should talk to them about it, and
Mm-hmm.
you may, but there are still things that you just want to vent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just want to get it off your chest,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't go to that person,
Mm-hmm.
and that is incredibly stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a general that's something that we all experience.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and we can say that now as adults
Mm-hmm.
with nearly 40 years of life experience under our belts.
Right.
For a teenager who doesn't have that perspective,
right. Yeah.
that really messes with your head, because that's the age when you think that the whole world is against you, or the whole world is going to end, or
Mm-hmm.
it's never going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these negative thoughts because you have no perspective. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that to slag on teenagers.
Right.
That's how it is.
Right.
If you're 15 years old, you've only got a handful of years of real cognitive life experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not enough to make these drastic decisions and to be able to figure these things out. And that's one of the hardest parts about being a teenager is in a school environment. We put so much on kids to figure this out. And high schoolers think that, if something goes wrong in high school, that's it. My whole world is done.
Right. And you're absolutely right that in general, we end up feeding into that. You haven't made your decisions by 18. Oh, you're screwed. That's
you haven't figured out what you want to do by the time you go to college. You haven't figured that out. Yeah. Oh man, that's it. Your life is over. What are you going to do now? You're just on a bad trajectory. You're not going to amount to anything. Yeah. Screw that.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, we could go off on a whole tangent on that, but that's not really relevant to Miles. So I think this is a good opportunity. As any, we're going to take a break. We're going to plug a few shows, and we'll come right back and we'll discuss treatment.
Have you ever been reading through a stack of comics and thought, maybe I should see what this Arkham Asylum game is all about? Or been playing Marvel vs. Capcom and felt like you were at a real disadvantage since you didn't know who half the characters were? Well, Play Comics is the show for you. I'm Chris, and each episode we take a look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. So whether you know the comics and want to know how all these games work, or you know the games and want to find out where all this craziness came from, go check out Play Comics at playcomics.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Hi, I'm one of the High Priests of Khonshu Ray, and I have the sacred privilege of providing you, the loony listener, with a podcast honouring Marvel's very own Moon Knight. So join me and a host of others at Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, or support the show by becoming a Patreon member. Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. It's time to get your Khonshu on.
Hi, I'm Saladin Ahmed, and this is Capes on the Couch.
And we're back. So treatment in universe. What would you say to Miles Morales?
This one's a little tough because I'm not sure Miles is vulnerable to someone like me. What I mean by that is I don't have a connection to him. And he really doesn't click well with people that either thrust themselves upon him in terms of making a connection, or he has that natural connection with his family or whatever. So this one, I almost think that I have to go through some sort of back channel. What I mean by that is his mother's a nurse, for example. If within the healthcare field, she somehow knew of me, or there was some sort of connection there, some sort of relationship in terms of, well, I looked him up, he's a good guy, you know, you might want to talk to him. Something like that. That's how I think we'd have to do this initially. But with Miles and with most teenagers and with most children, sorry, any teenagers listening, I'm not calling you a child, okay? You're an adolescent. And by the way, some of the 20, 30-year-olds, you're still adolescents too. It's okay. Transitions happen in life. It's all good. To get back to Miles, you have to, at some point, recognize that you're not gonna be able to hide everything. I almost feel like I have to portray myself as like this, I don't want to say villain, but just this person that, you know, I could see through all of this. And if you really want to survive,
Peel the curtain back.
Yeah, if you really want to survive, you got to come to someone like me, because at least he'll respect that and he'll be intrigued by that and may want to challenge me, not to a physical fight. I mean, he'll whoop me easily, but just the idea, especially since most adolescents have some physical component. When we think of mental health, we always think of the emotional side of things, or whether or not someone is experiencing psychotic symptoms and stuff. There is a huge biological component to it, and we're talking about a teenager that has superpowers. Maybe it's a matter of getting a simulation where even if he's not directly talking to me, I ask him, okay, manifest something that you're scared of. We're gonna go through this right now. And he kind of works his way through it that way, you know? Like, in other words, make it up, you know? Okay, you know, I was going to say Prowler, but no, of course not. That's way too close to home. But it's some random supervillain, and we're going to tag that supervillain with something. It could be depression. It could be anxiety. It could be potential breakup with girlfriend, whatever. And he fights it out, or he at least tries to work it out in a way that he's still able to connect with me. With young children, we call that play therapy, you know? But in this case, this is where the big boys play. I wonder how many people are going to get that reference, you know? Anybody that knows us and just in general knows what this is about, they'll get that wrestling reference, but hey.
So out of universe, I would say you've got a teenager who just has a lot more responsibility thrust upon them in a way that they didn't anticipate, the way that they didn't expect, and they're struggling coping with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And this is where I'll admit I have very limited expertise and experience. Full disclosure, I am not a child psychiatrist. I did not do a child's fellowship. I am a general adult psychiatrist. Having said that, I have gained experience through the emergency room of seeing more and more teenagers, children. And so I do have some background with those experiences. I just want to make it clear that I do not regularly see children on an outpatient basis. So if the information sounds vague or not directly immediately applicable, or something that may sound a little different than how a child psychiatrist or child therapist would do things, I don't mean any disrespect. And please, you can do your own homework and research about that. Sorry for that disclaimer, but I think it was necessary. Anyway, to get back to it.
#ethics.
In this case, most teenagers just shut down. They really do. When you mention the idea of therapy or psychiatry or anything like that. And there's a pretty good reason and protective factor for that. It's because they're already at the point where they know everything. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's just a direct observation from years and years of doing this. So I almost never hit it head on, with the exception of the main complaint. So for example, if it's depression, I'll start with the basic of, so it sounds like you're a little sad, huh? Or anxiety, like, I guess there's some stuff that makes you nervous. What's going on? Just real general. Then from there, I usually just completely change the topic. Like, all right, look, I know you don't want to be here. I know you don't want to do this stuff. Okay, that's fine. So what do you like to do? And get into interests, things that they'd much rather talk about. Because let's just use current examples. Like, I mean, I noticed you got some gamer gear on. Like, what do you play? Modern Warfare. You just,
League of Legends.
Yeah,
Destiny.
Right. What's your, don't get me wrong. I can't give
Master Race.
like, I can't give information about myself or anything, but what's your handle for PS4? Do you stream at all? Are you on Twitch? And here's the thing. It's a dangerous thing to do. I'm not saying everyone should do this, but if you do have things that are more modern, then go ahead and use it, because you'll gain a lot more respect for one thing that compared to the 50 million things that are in their lives that you don't. You can't fake it. They could see right through you on it.
How are you doing, fellow kids?
Right. So you don't do that. Don't fake it. If you don't know it, as a matter of fact, you'll get much further if you point out that you don't know it. Like, wow, I have never heard of that. I'm so old. The second that a little bit of self-deprecation there. The second that you start lowering all of these defenses, maybe you have one area that you really do know up to a modern point, and everything else falls to the wayside, because people respect that. Teenagers also respect that. The idea that you are kind of feeding into the idea that they say, like, wow, I really do know some stuff, and this person really can learn something from me. You're turning it into a learning experience where they're teaching you. So while they're teaching me about the stuff I don't know, what are they teaching me about their mood? What are they teaching me about their thought process? What are they teaching me about what is actually troubling them?
What are they teaching you about themselves?
Right. Developing that type of rapport is the best thing you can do, because they're never going to see you as a friend, and you don't want them to see you as a friend. They want to see someone they can respect. And the way you earn that respect is by giving them the proper space and time to say the things that in the moment they think are most important. So we started with the direct hit of, this is what the problem is. Moved it to a topic that maybe they wanted to talk about that may not be related at all. And it may not be in that session that you get back to the original topic. You still ask the safety questions of suicide and things like that. But the point is, at some point, as you're doing this organically, you are continuing to build on all of the other aspects of their personality and their emotions that'll allow you to then work up to that next step. Like, when was the last time you rage quit a game? When you did that, is that something that you do at home too? I don't know. I'm just wondering. Your mom ever yell at you about that?
Yeah,
Anything?
man, I've broken controllers all the time.
Well,
Sucks, man.
I mean, has it ever gotten beyond that? Have you ever broken, like, punched a hole in the wall? Like, and this really does hit because that's from today. Just had someone this age, this scenario, broke his Xbox, broke his computer monitor, punched holes in walls. And the only reason he was willing to talk to me is because I wanted to know how much swag he had in Fortnite. Just saying. You guys may think sometimes I'm trying to come up with stuff on the fly, and 99%, that's true. But I'm also living it.
Damn.
Just saying, man. Just saying.
Wow. Yeah, rage quit. I haven't rage quit since I was playing Madden competitively back in the day. But anyway.
Oh, don't lie. You were never competitive in Madden. Boom!
Oh.
Boom!
You, man.
Anywho.
I set myself up for that one. I can't even get mad at it. So, having said that, let's hope Miles doesn't rage quit the session when he ends up on Dr. Issues' couch.
Hello, Miles. I'm Dr. Issues.
Hey, Doc.
So what can I do for you?
Does this really work?
Does what work?
Talking to people like you.
If it doesn't, then I've been lied to by a lot of people. So I'm going to say yes. And I'd like to help you.
Oh, that's cool. Well, bye.
What? Where are you going?
I'm just testing this out, man. I don't know you like that. You know, my mom is the one who wants me to do this, but that's because she's a nurse.
So you don't need my help with anything?
Nah. Well, not like that. It's complicated.
Try me.
I mean, I will if I need to. I got friends. I got family. You're like a backup plan.
No offense, but that's a bad idea.
Excuse me?
Your mom, your first line of defense, she's the one that saw something that's cracking, and I don't want you to wait till the dam breaks.
Listen, man, I don't wait for a damn thing. I'm not some little punk, you hear? You know, what you know anyway? You don't have powers. You can't fight. You can't stick to walls. Man, I bet I could have you swinging from the chandelier in like 3 seconds flat. Such
Machismo. I didn't expect that from the reports that indicated a lack of confidence.
Yeah, well, your reports are wrong. I'm not who they think I am. I'm not.
So who are you?
I'm a good guy. I'm fun. I'm smart. Come on, man. Why aren't you saying anything? That's irritating.
Well, you're on a roll. Don't let me stop you.
I'm young. I'm quick. I ball with heroes. Heroes.
Is that all?
Yo, what are you doing? You just want me to compliment myself?
No, I want you to be comfortable with who you are on all sides. I'm getting a shallow picture right now.
What, is you serious? Yo, dude, I'm not playing here. I'm not a kid. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm a teen, but I'm mature for my age.
Do you do teen things?
Like what?
You said you had friends. What do you do with them?
I don't know.
Interesting. You seem like you were rambling on pretty well there. That's kind of a dead end, huh? So what do you do with your family?
Well, my mom's, I mean, she don't know about the stuff that I can do.
That's a pretty big secret. And you said that she still noticed that you have something bothering you. So I'm getting a big mismatch here.
Look, I just don't want her to get hurt, okay?
And I'll go out on a limb to say that she doesn't want you to get hurt. So if you two are in agreement...
Nope, no way, no how, man.
Okay, so this is a house of secrets.
Well, my dad knows.
So good old male bonding, huh?
My dad's a cop. He ain't exactly thrilled with the whole teenage vigilante superhero thing.
Okay, so let me recap. You have friends, but you don't know what you do with them. You have family, but one of them doesn't know, and the other one doesn't like what you do. So how am I the backup plan?
I don't know, man. I'm just trying to figure this out. You know, I just want to do the right thing, and you know, I'm trying to avoid as many distractions as I can.
Now, if only there were someone outside of the situation who could help you process all of these delicate things at once and improve your functional level so that it doesn't emotionally overwhelm you.
Oh, gee, I wonder who that could be.
Well, there's only one of us who's really been nervous this whole time and therefore tried to act like a tough ass so he wouldn't have to answer questions and could just leave.
Nervous? Who's nervous? I'm not nervous. Why would you say that?
Because you've been sweating this whole time and I'm pretty sure your hands are sticking to your sides.
Man, that's not nerves. That's puberty. You're old. You forget what it's like.
Well, in my business, whether it's from puberty or not, we refer to it as anxiety, and it can be treated. Right now, I'm trying to figure out if it's general anxiety or more specific to social situations. What's the one thing that keeps you awake at night?
Man, somebody find that out I'm Spider-Man and come and hurt my family.
So what safeguards do you have to keep that secret besides keeping your mouth shut?
I don't know, dude. I don't know how this is all supposed to work. I just want to honor the old Spider-Man. And then I come to this world and I find out he's still around. So I'm just
that's a load off, right?
What?
Well, now you don't have to worry about legacy of a martyr or anything, Basically, you have now a built-in comrade, a mentor. It sounds like a great way to ease the tension, have someone to be a sounding board, even beyond a professional like me.
Yeah, but dude is super busy.
Well, so are you.
Truth.
All right, so instead of putting up all these roadblocks, why don't you try and find your own path? It doesn't have to be perfect, and it's a lot less scary that way.
What, like not be Spider-Man?
No, like be your own different kind of Spider-Man.
He's white. I'm black and Puerto Rican. Like, how else can I be different?
I'd like to think there are more character traits than ethnicity, your different generations, different upbringings.
Yeah. I could be the cool Spider-Man.
Okay, you're the cool Spider-Man.
No, I mean it. I am the cool Spider-Man.
Okay, whatever floats your boat, Miles.
Dude, no one says that.
Touche. Well, like I said, different generations. All right, let's cut to the chase. So are we cool or what?
Yeah, I guess you're cool enough for now. I think that went well.
Not as well as it could be. Yeah, absolutely.
No property damage. No physical damage.
No one's saying, by the way, that wasn't web.
Right. How do I shot web? It's good to be back. It's good. Yeah. It's good to be back in the swing of things.
Yep.
The thwip swing of things.
Oh, wow.
I made it almost the entire episode without making that kind of a joke.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't leave me hanging.
So that's going to do it for this episode. Next episodes, as we said, we have our several of them lined up now. So we've got next week, Medusa, then the sequel, Mental Health Avengers, Age of Access, where we will be joining up with Pop Psych 101, Freudian Sips, Popcorn Psychology, Guardians MH, all the recurring folks from the last one, plus one or two folks that weren't there for the original. We're introducing some new characters for the sequel, like Doc.
Yep.
Then followed up by Bane, who I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure out when for the Bane, for the Skit. Which voice should I do? Should I do like animated series? Or should I do Tom Hardy?
The fact that you just did it, I think, indicates what you're going to do. So
yeah, but that's not the true to the comic. Anyway,
I agree with you.
Political terrorism and the Tick.
I like how you just kind of threw in political terrorism there.
Well, because it follows up with Bane, which is, sort of related character-wise.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, as we said at the top of the show, if you leave us a rating and review and then send us a screen cap of that rating and review along with your address, and you email us at capesonthecouch@gmail.com, we will send you a sticker. So that's basically Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Stitcher. I believe you can also leave reviews on Stitcher. So we are Capes on the Couch at basically all the social media platforms. You can check out our Patreon page. You can go to TeePublic and do a search for Capes on the Couch and find some cool swag. We are working on coming up with that second design for Because Comics. I will eventually get around to officially releasing that. And then, as I said at the top of the show, if you subscribe to our Patreon at the $3 and up level starting in February, we will do monthly trade paperback reviews. And so the February review will be Joker Endgame. So it's good to be back. And Doc, anything you want to say before we punch out?
No. I really think teenagers need some time alone to really learn how to process things, even if they have superpowers.
Well, maybe they can multitask with the time alone that they're spending figuring out what to do with their bodies. So for Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.